The starship Aurora's light drifted silently through the cold, endless void of space. Its sleek metallic frame glinted faintly under the light of a distant sun. Inside, Captain Laura Hayes stood on the bridge, staring out at the expanse of stars before her. She had been in command of this vessel for 5 years, and yet every time she looked out into the vastness of the galaxy, she felt a mix of awe and unease. Space was beautiful, but it was also unpredictable. "Lieutenant Carter," she said, turning to the man seated at the navigation console. "What's our status?" Ryan Carter glanced up from his screen. He was a tall man with sharp features and an air of confidence that bordered on arrogance. "We're nearing the edge of the designated search zone, Captain. So far, nothing unusual has shown up on scans." Laura nodded, though her expression remained thoughtful. The mission had been straightforward enough. Investigate a series of strange energy readings detected near the outer rim of the galaxy. These readings were unlike anything recorded before. Faint pulses that seemed almost deliberate, as if they were trying to communicate. The Federation had sent them to find answers, but so far the journey had yielded little more than empty space and unanswered questions. Just then, Dr. Emily Brooks entered the bridge. She was a soft-spoken woman with warm brown eyes and a passion for unraveling mysteries. Her role as the ship's xenobiologist meant she often spent hours analyzing data or studying alien life forms. But today she carried an excitement in her step that caught everyone's attention. "Captain," she began, holding up a small tablet. "You need to see this. Our sensors picked up something just a few minutes ago, a structure of some kind. It's not natural." Laura straightened immediately. "Show me." Emily tapped the screen and a holographic image appeared above the central table. It depicted what looked like a derelict outpost, floating adrift in space. The structure was massive, its surface scarred by time and decay. Jagged spires jutted out at odd angles, and sections of the outer hull appeared to be missing entirely. Whatever it was, it clearly hadn't been used in centuries. "Do we know who built it?" Laura asked, leaning closer to examine the image. "Not yet," Emily replied. "But based on the design, it doesn't match any known civilizations in our database. This could be a first contact scenario, or at least evidence of one long forgotten." Laura turned to Ryan. "How close are we?" "We can reach it within the hour," he answered after checking his instruments. "But I should warn you, it's emitting low-level radiation. Not dangerous, but enough to interfere with some of our systems if we get too close." "Understood," Laura said firmly. "Prepare a landing party. Dr. Brooks, you'll lead the science team. Lieutenant Carter, you're coming with me. Let's suit up and head over there." An hour later, the shuttle detached from the Aurora's light and approached the mysterious structure. As they drew nearer, the scale of the outpost became even more apparent. It loomed ahead of them like a sleeping giant, its shadowy interior hinting at secrets waiting to be uncovered. Once inside, the team activated their helmet lights, illuminating narrow corridors lined with strange symbols etched into the walls. The air was thick with dust and the floor crunched beneath their boots as they moved cautiously forward. "This place gives me the creeps," muttered Jack Miller, the ship's engineer. A stocky man with a knack for fixing things, he adjusted the settings on his scanner nervously. "Feels like something's watching us." "Don't let your imagination run wild, Miller," Ryan said dismissively. "It's probably just another abandoned relic. No reason to panic." But as they ventured deeper, the atmosphere grew heavier. The walls seemed to close in around them and the silence was oppressive. Even Laura, who prided herself on staying calm under pressure, couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. They reached a large chamber at the heart of the outpost. In the center stood what appeared to be a makeshift kennel, a crude enclosure made of metal bars and reinforced panels. Inside, curled up against the far wall, was a creature unlike anything they'd ever seen. It was enormous, easily twice the size of a human, with mottled gray skin that glistened wetly in the dim light. Its body was muscular and covered in ridges, giving it a reptilian appearance. Long, clawed limbs ended in razor-sharp talons, and a row of jagged teeth filled its wide, snarling mouth. Most unsettling of all were its eyes. Large, serpentine, orbs that glowed faintly, watching the intruders with a mixture of fear and hostility. "What is that?" Emily whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of her suit's comms. "It looks like some kind of guard animal," Ryan suggested, raising his weapon cautiously. "Or maybe a pet. Either way, it doesn't look friendly." Laura stepped forward, lowering her rifle slightly. "Hold your fire. We don't know what we're dealing with here." The creature growled low in its throat, shifting its massive form. Chains rattled as it tried to stand, but it was clear it lacked the strength. Its movements were sluggish, and its ribs were visible beneath its thinning skin. Whatever it was, it hadn't eaten in a very long time. Dr. Brooks knelt down a safe distance away, studying the creature intently. "Look at its condition. It's malnourished, dehydrated, neglected. Whoever left this thing here abandoned it. Completely." "That doesn't make it any less dangerous," Ryan countered sharply. "For all we know, it could rip us apart the second those chains snap." "Maybe," Laura interjected, "but we didn't come all this way just to turn our backs on something because it scares us. If this creature is intelligent, and I think it might be, we owe it a chance." Emily nodded in agreement. "I want to study it further. There's no telling what we could learn from a species like this." After a tense discussion, the decision was made to bring the creature back to the Aurora's light. Using tools provided by Jack, they carefully dismantled the kennel and secured the creature with additional restraints. Despite its weakened state, it fought fiercely, thrashing against its bonds and letting out ear-splitting roars that echoed through the chamber. When they finally managed to load it onto the shuttle, the entire team was exhausted. As they prepared to leave the outpost behind, Laura took one last look at the desolate structure. Something about it felt wrong, as if it held secrets they hadn't yet uncovered. But for now, their priority was the creature. Back aboard the Aurora's light, the crew worked quickly to set up a containment area for their new guest. They named it Rex, a simple label that stuck despite its monstrous appearance. Though opinions varied widely among the crew, one thing was certain. Bringing Rex aboard was only the beginning of their story. The Aurora's light hummed quietly as it resumed its journey through the stars. Inside the containment area, Rex lay motionless on the cold floor, his chains rattling faintly whenever he shifted. The crew had done their best to make him comfortable, but there was no denying how out of place he seemed aboard the sleek, human-designed starship. His grotesque form loomed large in the cramped space, casting eerie shadows under the harsh lights. Dr. Emily Brooks spent most of her time observing Rex, determined to understand the creature better. She sat cross-legged just outside the reinforced glass walls of the containment unit, jotting notes onto a tablet while occasionally glancing up at him. Despite his fearsome appearance, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Rex than met the eye. "He's not like the others," she murmured to herself one evening, watching as Rex's glowing eyes tracked her movements. Most animals would have lashed out or shown signs of aggression by now, but Rex seemed cautious. He watched her with an intensity that suggested thought, even curiosity. Captain Laura Hayes stopped by later that day to check on progress. "How's it going?" she asked, leaning against the wall near Emily. Emily looked up from her work. "It's slow, but I think we're making headway. He responds to movement and sound, which means he's aware of his surroundings. And look." She pointed toward Rex, who had turned his massive head slightly to face them. "See how he's watching us? That's not instinct, that's intelligence." Laura frowned, crossing her arms. "Intelligent or not, he's still dangerous. We can't forget what he's capable of." "I know," Emily replied softly. "But I don't think he's inherently violent. Neglect can do terrible things to any living being. Maybe if we show him kindness, he'll respond in kind." Laura sighed. "I hope you're right. But not everyone agrees with your approach." Down in the engineering bay, Jack Miller worked tirelessly to recalibrate the ship's systems after the recent radiation exposure near the outpost. He was a practical man, someone who preferred machines to mysteries, and the idea of keeping a monstrous alien aboard made him uneasy. "You hear about that thing they brought back?" he asked Ryan Carter, who had stopped by to review maintenance. Ryan nodded grimly. Yeah. Still can't believe the captain let them bring it on board. What happens when those chains break or when it figures out how to escape? Jack shrugged. Guess we'll find out. But between you and me, I wouldn't mind if it stayed locked up forever. Ryan leaned closer, lowering his voice. That's the problem? It shouldn't be here at all. It's too risky. If something goes wrong, we could all pay the price. Unbeknownst to either of them, their conversation was overheard by another crew member passing through the corridor. Word spread quickly among the team, fueling growing unease. Some began whispering about mutiny, questioning whether Captain Hayes had made the right call. Others avoided the containment area altogether, refusing to so much as glance in Rex's direction. Tensions reached a boiling point during a routine briefing. The entire crew gathered in the mess hall, where Laura stood at the front, addressing concerns about the mission. Listen up, she began, her tone firm but calm. I know some of you are worried about having Rex aboard. Trust me, I get it. But this is uncharted territory. We have a responsibility to learn everything we can about him. And maybe, just maybe, help him. Ryan stepped forward, his expression hard. With respect, Captain, I think we're playing with fire. This isn't some stray dog we picked up off the street. It's a predator, a big one. And predators don't change their nature because we feed them. That's enough, Lieutenant, Laura snapped, cutting him off. We're scientists and explorers. Our job is to seek understanding, not jump to conclusions based on fear. But what about safety? Ryan shot back. What happens when those chains snap? Or when it decides it doesn't want to play nice anymore? Before Laura could respond, Dr. Brooks spoke up. Rex hasn't shown any signs of hostility since we've been caring for him. In fact, quite the opposite. He seems to be calming down. He's reacting to our presence, learning to trust us. Isn't that worth exploring further? The room fell silent as the two sides stared each other down. Finally, Laura raised a hand to diffuse the tension. This discussion isn't helping anyone. For now, Rex stays dismissed. As the crew dispersed, Ryan lingered behind, frustration etched across his face. He wasn't ready to give up, not when he believed the creature posed a real threat. Over the next few days, strange things started happening aboard the Aurora's light. At first, they were minor, flickering lights, doors opening and closing on their own, odd humming noises coming from the walls. The crew chalked it up to technical glitches, though Jack assured everyone that the ship's systems were functioning perfectly. Then came the bigger issues. One morning, the navigation console went haywire, sending the ship veering dangerously, close to an asteroid field. Ryan managed to regain control just in time, but the incident left everyone shaken. It has to be him, Ryan declared during another tense meeting. Every time something goes wrong, it traces back to wherever he is. Coincidence? I don't think so. Emily shook her head. You're jumping to conclusions again. There's no proof Rex is responsible for any of this. And there's no proof he isn't, Ryan shot back. Until we know for sure he's a liability. We should neutralize the threat before it gets worse. Neutralizing Rex meant killing him, a suggestion that horrified Emily and infuriated Laura. Absolutely not, the captain said firmly. We're not executing an innocent creature based on speculation. End of discussion. But Ryan wasn't satisfied. Convinced that Rex was behind the disturbances, he took matters into his own hands. Late one night, while the rest of the crew slept, he snuck into the containment area armed with a tranquilizer gun loaded with a lethal dose. Rex stirred as Ryan approached, his glowing eyes narrowing in suspicion. For a moment, neither moved. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, Rex lunged forward, straining against his chains. The force of his movement sent shockwaves through the room, causing equipment to topple and alarms to blare. Ryan stumbled backward, fumbling with the gun. Before he could fire, Emily burst in, alerted by the commotion. "Ryan, stop!" she shouted, stepping between him and Rex. "This thing is dangerous," Ryan yelled, gesturing wildly. "It's only a matter of time before it kills someone." "No, it won't," Emily countered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Look at him, he's scared, not attacking. You're the one escalating this." For a long moment, the three of them stood frozen. Ryan clutching the gun, Emily shielding Rex, and the creature itself crouched low, growling softly. Finally, Ryan lowered the weapon, though his expression remained dark. "You're making a mistake," he muttered, turning to leave. Once he was gone, Emily knelt beside Rex, speaking gently to calm him. Though his breathing was ragged and his body tense, he didn't lash out. Instead, he watched her with those piercing eyes, as if trying to comprehend her intentions. Later, when Laura arrived to assess the situation, Emily filled her in on what had happened. "If we don't figure out what's really going on soon," Emily warned, "things are going to spiral out of control." Laura nodded grimly. "Agreed. Keep working with Rex. Find out what he knows, and what he's capable of, because if Ryan's right, we might already be in over our heads." As the days passed, the disturbances aboard the ship grew more frequent and severe. Lights dimmed unpredictably, communication channels crackled with static, and sections of the hull began sealing themselves shut without warning. Panic spread among the crew and whispers of mutiny grew louder. Through it all, Rex remained a focal point of both fear and fascination. To some, he was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. To others, he was a victim of circumstance, misunderstood, and mistreated. But one thing was clear. Whatever secrets Rex held, they were bound to change the fate of the Aurora's light, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The tension aboard the Aurora's light was palpable. Every strange malfunction, every flicker of the lights seemed to weigh heavier on the crew's minds. Some avoided the containment area altogether, while others lingered nearby, watching Rex, with a mix of fear and fascination. Lieutenant Ryan Carter had become increasingly vocal about his distrust of the creature, often questioning Captain Laura Hayes' decisions during briefings. His words sowed doubt among the crew, creating an undercurrent of unease that threatened to boil over. Dr. Emily Brooks, however, refused to give up on Rex. She spent hours each day observing him, documenting his behavior, and attempting to communicate in any way she could. At first, her efforts seemed futile. Rex growled low in his throat whenever she approached, his glowing eyes fixed on her with wary suspicion. But Emily persisted, speaking softly and using slow, deliberate movements to show she meant no harm. One afternoon, as she sat cross-legged outside the containment glass, she decided to try something new. Pulling out a small device from her pocket, a handheld emitter designed to produce simple tones, she began playing soft, rhythmic sounds. The effect was immediate. Rex tilted his massive head, his ears twitching as the notes filled the room. For the first time since they'd brought him aboard, he didn't growl or bare his teeth. Instead, he shifted slightly, his chains rattling as he moved closer to the source of the sound. Encouraged, Emily continued experimenting. Over the next few days, she introduced different patterns of tones, varying their pitch and rhythm. To her amazement, Rex began responding. When she played a particular sequence, he would let out a low rumble, almost like a purr. When she changed the pattern, his response shifted too, sometimes mimicking the tone or reacting with subtle body language. It was clear. Rex understood more than anyone had anticipated. Word of these developments spread quickly through the ship. Some crew members were intrigued, while others remained skeptical. Ryan predictably dismissed the findings outright. "So it reacts to noises," he said during one heated discussion. "That doesn't prove anything. Animals respond to stimuli all the time." "But this is different," Emily argued, holding her ground. "He's not just reacting randomly. He's learning, adapting. That kind of cognitive ability suggests intelligence, maybe even self-awareness." Captain Laura Hayes listened intently, weighing both sides of the argument. While she trusted Emily's expertise, she also knew morale was slipping. The crew needed answers, and fast. Late one night, Emily stayed late in the lab, determined to make further progress. She had started incorporating gestures into her interactions with Rex, pairing specific hand signals with the tones she played. For example, when she pointed to herself, she paired it with a low hum. When she gestured toward Rex, she used a higher-pitched note. At first, Rex simply watched her, his expression unreadable. But after several repetitions, something incredible happened. As Emily gestured toward him and played the corresponding tone, Rex lifted one of his clawed limbs hesitantly. He tapped the glass twice, producing a dull thud that echoed through the room. Emily froze, her heart racing. Slowly, she repeated the gesture and tone. Again, Rex responded, tapping the glass in the same spot. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as realization dawned. Rex wasn't just mimicking her actions. He was engaging, communicating. In that moment, she felt a connection unlike anything she'd ever experienced. This wasn't a mindless beast. It was a sentient being, capable of thought and interaction. Overjoyed, Emily rushed to share the news with Captain Hayes. "You need to see this," she said breathlessly, leading Laura back to the containment area. Once there, Emily demonstrated the breakthrough. Sure enough, Rex responded to her cues, tapping the glass in sync with her signals. Laura stared in awe. "This changes everything," she murmured. "If he's intelligent, then we've been treating him all wrong. We can't keep him locked up like some dangerous animal." But Ryan, who had followed them to the containment area, wasn't convinced. "Even if he's smart, that doesn't mean he's safe," he countered. "Look at him, he's still a monster. What happens when he decides he's had enough of our experiments?" Emily turned to face him, her voice firm. "What happens if we treat him with respect instead of fear? Maybe he's acting out because he feels trapped. Maybe he's trying to tell us something." Ryan scoffed but didn't argue further. Still, his skepticism lingered, casting a shadow over the newfound hope spreading among the crew. Despite the breakthroughs, strange occurrences continued to plague the ship. One evening, Jack Miller, the ship's engineer, was working alone in the engine room when the lights dimmed suddenly. Before he could react, the temperature dropped sharply, sending chills down his spine. He spun around, expecting to see someone behind him, but the room was empty. Then, without warning, a panel on the wall slid open, revealing a tangle of wires sparking violently. "What the?" Jack muttered, backing away cautiously. He reached for his communicator to call for help, but the device emitted only static. Panic set in as the ship's systems began shutting down around him. Alarms blared, and emergency lights flashed red. By the time reinforcements arrived, the chaos had subsided as abruptly as it had begun. Jack explained what had happened, his hands trembling as he recounted the details. "It's like the ship came alive," he said. "I swear I wasn't imagining it." Captain Hayes called an emergency meeting to address the growing concerns. "We're missing something here," she said, pacing the room. "These malfunctions aren't random, there's a pattern. We just haven't figured it out yet." Emily raised a tentative hand. "Could it be related to Rex?" she asked. "His species might have advanced technology embedded in their biology. If he's communicating somehow, maybe it's affecting the ship." Ryan rolled his eyes. "Of course you'd defend him. You're blinded by your obsession." "Enough," Laura snapped, silencing the argument before it escalated. "Whether or not Rex is involved, we need to get to the bottom of this. Emily, continue your research. Jack, run diagnostics on every system, and Ryan..." She paused, fixing him with a stern glare. "Stay focused on your duties. That's an order." As the investigation unfolded, Emily made another startling discovery. While reviewing footage from the containment area, she noticed something peculiar. During periods of heightened activity aboard the ship, Rex exhibited unusual behavior. His eyes glowed brighter, and his body tensed as though anticipating something. More importantly, the disturbances always occurred shortly after these episodes. Determined to test her theory, Emily devised a plan. With Captain Hayes' permission, she temporarily reduced the security measures around Rex's enclosure, allowing him limited freedom within the containment area. The decision was controversial, but Laura trusted Emily's judgment. To everyone's surprise, Rex didn't attack or attempt to escape. Instead, he explored the space cautiously, sniffing the air and examining objects with keen interest. When Emily approached him, he allowed her to come closer than ever before. For the first time, he didn't flinch when she extended her hand toward him. "You're amazing," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Do you understand me?" Rex tilted his head, his glowing eyes softening. Then, slowly, he reached out one of his massive claws and touched her hand gently. The moment was electric, a silent acknowledgement between two vastly different beings. But the peace was short-lived. Later that night, another major malfunction rocked the ship. This time, the navigation system failed completely, leaving the Aurora's light adrift in deep space. As the crew scrambled to regain control, Ryan confronted Emily in the corridor. "I warned you," he said coldly. "Now look what's happened. Thanks to your little pet, we're stranded." Emily shook her head. "No, Ryan. This isn't Rex's fault. Something else is going on here, something bigger than any of us realize." Before Ryan could respond, Captain Hayes' voice crackled over the intercom. "All hands to the bridge, we've got a situation." When the crew assembled, Laura delivered grim news. "Our systems are compromised. Someone or something is overriding our controls. Until we find the source, we're sitting ducks." As tensions mounted, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that Rex held the key to solving the mystery. Whatever secrets he carried, they were tied to the strange events unfolding aboard the ship. And as much as Ryan wanted to blame the creature, Emily knew the truth was far more complex. Little did they know the real saboteur was closer than anyone suspected, and the revelation would change everything. The Aurora's light drifted silently in the vast emptiness of space, its systems flickering and failing as the crew scrambled to regain control. Panic spread like wildfire among the team, but Captain Laura Hayes kept her composure, barking orders to restore order. "Jack, focus on life support. Ryan, get navigation back online. Emily, stay with Rex. I want updates if anything changes." Emily nodded and hurried back to the containment area, her mind racing. She couldn't shake the feeling that Rex was somehow connected to the chaos gripping the ship. But how? And why? As she entered the dimly lit room, she found Rex lying on the floor, his massive body tense and his glowing eyes darting around as though searching for something. "Rex?" she whispered softly, kneeling near the glass. "What do you know? Are you trying to tell us something?" Rex lifted his head slightly, his gaze locking onto hers. For a moment there was a strange stillness, as if he were listening, not just to her words, but to something deeper, beyond human understanding. Then, without warning, he let out a low growl that reverberated through the chamber. The sound wasn't aggressive. It was urgent, almost pleading. Emily's heart raced. "Captain," she said into her communicator, "I think Rex is reacting to whatever's happening. He's not causing this, he's warning us." Before Laura could respond, alarms blared again, louder this time. Lights flashed red, and the ship shuddered violently. In the engine room, Jack shouted over the noise, "We're losing power. If we don't stabilize the core, the whole system will collapse." Ryan, working furiously at the navigation console, clenched his fists in frustration. "This isn't random interference, it's deliberate sabotage. Something or someone is targeting us." His words sent a chill through the crew. Sabotage meant one of their own might be responsible. An unthinkable betrayal. Suspicion hung, heavy in the air, and all eyes turned toward Rex. Despite Emily's protests, many believed the creature was behind the attacks. Hours passed, and the situation grew dire. Life support systems faltered, forcing the crew to don emergency oxygen masks. Communication channels crackled with static, making coordination nearly impossible. Amid the chaos, Ryan decided to take matters into his own hands. Convinced that Rex was the source of the problem, he armed himself with a tranquilizer rifle loaded with a lethal dose and headed toward the containment area. When he arrived, Emily was crouched near the glass, speaking gently to Rex. Ryan stepped forward, his expression grim. "Step aside, Dr. Brooks, this ends now." Emily spun around, her eyes widening in shock. "What are you doing? You can't kill him." "He's dangerous," Ryan snapped, raising the rifle. "Every second we waste debating is another second closer to disaster. I'm ending this threat before it's too late." "No," Emily shouted, positioning herself between Ryan and Rex. "You're wrong about him, he's not the enemy." Ryan hesitated, torn between his duty to protect the crew and the woman standing defiantly in his path. Behind Emily, Rex rose to his full height, his chains rattling ominously. His glowing eyes locked onto Ryan, and a deep, guttural growl filled the room. For a moment, No one moved. The tension was unbearable. Then suddenly the lights dimmed, plunging the containment area into near darkness. Sparks flew from the walls as panels shorted out and the ship lurched violently. Ryan stumbled, losing his grip on the rifle. It clattered to the floor, skittering just out of reach. Seizing the opportunity, Emily grabbed the weapon and pointed it at Ryan. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. "Don't make me use this. Rex isn't the saboteur, you are." Ryan froze, his face a mask of disbelief. "What are you talking about?" "It's you," Emily repeated, her tone firm. "Ever since we brought Rex aboard, you've been sowing fear and mistrust. You've sabotaged the ship to frame him, to turn everyone against him." "That's insane," Ryan shot back, though his voice wavered. "Why would I do that?" "To maintain control," Emily said, lowering the rifle slightly but keeping it trained on him. "You've always resented Captain Hayes' leadership. By creating panic, you thought you could take charge, but you underestimated Rex, and us." Ryan's jaw tightened, and for a moment it seemed he might lunge at her. Instead, he took a step back, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "Fine," he muttered bitterly. "Do what you want. But when this all falls apart, don't say I didn't warn you." With Ryan detained, the crew worked together to repair the damage and stabilize the ship. Jack managed to reboot the core, restoring power to critical systems. Meanwhile, Emily focused on uncovering the truth behind Ryan's actions. A thorough review of the ship's logs revealed incriminating evidence: unauthorized access to key systems, tampered code, and deliberate overrides timed to coincide with moments of crisis. Captain Hayes confronted Ryan in the brig, her expression unreadable. "Why, Lieutenant?" she asked simply. "Why betray your crew?" Ryan avoided her gaze, his voice barely above a whisper. "I did it for the mission, for humanity. That thing, Rex, is unpredictable. Keeping him alive puts us all at risk. I couldn't stand by and watch while you gambled with our lives." Laura sighed, shaking her head. "Your intentions may have been noble, but your methods were reckless and selfish. We'll deal with this later. For now, we need to focus on surviving." As the ship returned to normal operations, attention shifted back to Rex. With Ryan exposed as the true saboteur, the crew began to see the creature in a new light. Emily continued her work, determined to unlock the secrets hidden within his intelligence. To her surprise, Rex became increasingly cooperative, responding to her gestures and tones with remarkable clarity. One evening, as Emily sat cross-legged outside the containment glass, she noticed something unusual. Rex had begun tracing patterns on the floor with one of his claws. At first the markings seemed random, but upon closer inspection they resembled the strange symbols etched into the walls of the derelict outpost where they'd found him. "Captain," Emily called excitedly, showing Laura the footage. "Look at this. He's drawing these symbols, just like the ones from the outpost. They must mean something." Laura studied the images carefully. If those symbols are part of an alien language, then Rex might be trying to communicate more than we realized. "Keep working with him, Dr. Brooks. We need to decipher what he's saying." Over the next few days, Emily and Rex developed a rudimentary form of communication. Using a combination of tones, gestures, and drawings, they pieced together fragments of meaning. Slowly, a story began to emerge, a tale of abandonment and loss. Rex's creators, it turned out, had once revered him as a guardian deity, a being of immense power and wisdom. But as their civilization advanced, they grew fearful of his growing intellect and independence. Fearing rebellion, they cast him aside, leaving him chained and forgotten in the outpost. Over centuries of isolation, Rex's resentment festered, turning him bitter and distrustful. The revelation struck a chord with the crew. Rex wasn't just a misunderstood creature. He was a victim of prejudice and fear, qualities eerily similar to those that had driven Ryan's betrayal. Realizing this, Laura made a bold decision. "We're going to release Rex," she announced during a meeting. "Not fully, but enough to give him freedom within designated areas of the ship. If we treat him with respect and trust, maybe he'll help us in return." The announcement was met with mixed reactions. Some crew members were apprehensive, while others welcomed the change. Emily, however, was thrilled. "Thank you, Captain," she said earnestly. "This is the right choice, for all of us." In the days that followed, Rex adapted quickly to his newfound liberty. Under Emily's guidance, he explored parts of the ship, learning its layout and interacting cautiously with the crew. Though some remained wary, others began to warm up to him, offering small gestures of kindness. For the first time since being discovered, Rex seemed at peace, but the journey was far from over. As the Aurora's light charted a course toward unexplored regions of the galaxy, Rex's presence loomed large, not as a threat, but as a reminder of the complexities of life in the cosmos. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain: the bond between human and alien had forever changed the course of their mission, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. The Aurora's light hummed softly as it journeyed through the stars, its crew forever changed by their encounter with Rex. The once feared alien dog had become an integral part of their mission, his intelligence and abilities unlocking secrets that reshaped their understanding of the galaxy. But the revelations didn't stop there. As they delved deeper into the data recovered from the derelict vessel, they uncovered something even more astonishing: evidence that Rex's creators hadn't vanished entirely. Dr. Emily Brooks spent countless hours poring over the information, her excitement growing with each new discovery. "This is incredible," she said one evening, calling Captain Laura Hayes to the lab. On a holographic display floated images of ancient star charts, communication logs, and fragments of recorded messages. "It seems Rex's people weren't completely wiped out. Some of them may have fled to distant colonies when their civilization collapsed." Laura leaned closer, studying the faint outlines of habitable planets marked on the map. "Do you think they're still alive?" "It's possible," Emily replied thoughtfully. "These records suggest they had advanced technology capable of sustaining life for centuries. If we follow these coordinates, we might find traces of their descendants, or at least remnants of their culture." The idea sent a ripple of anticipation through the crew. For months they'd been piecing together the story of Rex's past, but now they had a chance to uncover the full truth. Laura called a meeting to discuss their next move. "We've come this far," she said, addressing the team. "If there's even a small chance of finding survivors or answers, we owe it to Rex to try." Rex himself seemed to sense the significance of what was happening. During briefings, he sat quietly in the corner of the room, his glowing eyes fixed on the holograms and maps. Occasionally, he would let out a low rumble or tap his claws against the floor, as if urging them forward. His presence reminded everyone why they were doing this, not just for science or exploration, but for him. As the ship approached the first set of coordinates, the crew prepared for the unknown. The destination was a remote planet shrouded in thick clouds, its surface obscured from view. Sensors detected traces of artificial structures beneath the haze, suggesting signs of habitation. Excitement buzzed among the team, tempered by caution. No one knew what awaited them on the other side. When they landed, the air was heavy with moisture, and strange plants twisted upward toward the dim light filtering through the clouds. Rex led the way, moving confidently despite the unfamiliar terrain. His instincts guided him as though he had walked this path before, a relic of his forgotten memories surfacing in response to the environment. They soon came upon the ruins of a sprawling city, its buildings overtaken by vines and moss. Towering statues of Rex's kind stood guard at the entrance, their weathered faces gazing stoically into the distance. It was clear this place had once thrived, but now it lay abandoned, swallowed by time and nature. "This must have been one of their colonies," Emily murmured, running her hand along the cracked stone of a crumbling wall. "Look at the carvings. They match the symbols we've seen before." Rex roared softly, drawing their attention to a massive doorway at the center of the ruins. Embedded in the frame was a panel similar to the one he had activated aboard the derelict ship. Without hesitation, he pressed his claw against it, and the door slid open with a deep grinding sound, Inside, they found a vault-like chamber filled with artifacts, scrolls, tools, and devices unlike anything they'd ever seen. At the heart of the room stood a pedestal bearing a glowing crystal orb. When Rex touched it, the orb pulsed brightly, projecting a hologram into the air. The image depicted a group of beings resembling Rex, standing alongside humanoid figures in ceremonial robes. Their expressions were solemn, their voices echoing in an ancient language. Emily quickly began recording the message, her hands trembling with excitement. "This could be the key to everything," she whispered. "If we can translate it, we'll finally understand what happened to his people and why they left him behind." Back aboard the Aurora's Light, the crew worked tirelessly to decipher the hologram's contents. With Rex's help, they identified patterns in the language, piecing together fragments of meaning. What emerged was both heartbreaking and enlightening. The hologram told the story of a great exodus, a desperate attempt by Rex's creators to escape the collapse of their society. In their haste, they made a fateful decision, to leave behind those they deemed too dangerous or uncontrollable, including Rex. The message ended with a plea for forgiveness, acknowledging the pain caused by their actions and expressing hope that future generations would learn from their mistakes. When Emily shared the translation with the crew, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Rex sat silently, his head bowed as though absorbing the weight of the revelation. For so long, he had carried the burden of abandonment, believing himself unworthy of love or trust. Now he understood the truth. It wasn't his fault. He had been betrayed by fear and ignorance, not because of who he was, but because of what others couldn't accept. Captain Hayes placed a reassuring hand on Emily's shoulder. "We need to honor their legacy," she said firmly. "Not by repeating their mistakes, but by proving that coexistence is possible. Rex has shown us that." From that moment on, Rex's role aboard the ship evolved once again. No longer just a passenger or ally, he became a symbol of hope, a bridge between species. The crew treated him with even greater respect, recognizing the depth of his suffering and resilience. They included him in discussions, sought his input during critical moments, and celebrated his contributions openly. As the Aurora's Light continued its journey following the map to other locations marked by Rex's creators, the crew encountered wonders beyond imagination. Ancient libraries contained knowledge of forgotten sciences, while abandoned observatories revealed glimpses of cosmic phenomena never recorded before. Each discovery added layers to their understanding of the universe and of themselves. Rex played a vital role in every step, using his innate connection to the technology of his people to unlock doors, activate systems, and guide the team safely through perilous environments. His strength and intelligence saved them time and again, earning him a reputation as a hero rather than a monster. But perhaps the most profound change was within Rex himself. Over time, he grew calmer and more confident, shedding the bitterness that had haunted him for centuries. He formed bonds with the crew, particularly Emily, who remained his closest companion. She often stayed up late talking to him, sharing stories of Earth and listening intently as he communicated through gestures and sounds. One night, as they sat together in the observation deck, gazing out at the endless sea of stars, Emily smiled warmly. "You've come so far, Rex," she said softly. "You've taught us so much about trust and forgiveness. I'm proud of you." Rex tilted his massive head, his glowing eyes softening. Then, with a gentle nudge of his snout, he rested, his chin on her shoulder, a gesture of gratitude and affection. It was a small moment, but one that spoke volumes about the bond they had forged. The final leg of their journey brought them to a mysterious region of space known only as the Veil, a dense nebula rumored to hold untold secrets. According to the map, it was the last destination marked by Rex's creators. As the ship entered the swirling mist, visibility dropped, and the sensors struggled to penetrate the thick clouds. Tension mounted as they navigated blindly, relying on instinct and Rex's guidance. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently, caught in a gravitational pull stronger than anticipated. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to regain control. Through the chaos, Rex let out a thunderous roar, pointing toward a faint light piercing the haze. Following his direction, Laura ordered the helm adjusted, and slowly, the Aurora's light emerged into a breathtaking sight. Before them floated an enormous structure, a colossal sphere covered in intricate designs that glimmered like constellations. It pulsed with energy, radiating warmth and power. This was no ordinary artifact. It was alive, humming with the essence of creation itself. "What is it?" Jack whispered, awestruck. "It's everything," Emily replied, tears streaming down her face. "It's the culmination of their knowledge, their hopes, their dreams. This is what they left behind for us to find." As the crew stared in wonder, Rex stepped forward, his chains removed long ago. He placed a clawed hand on the console, and the sphere responded, opening a portal that bathed the ship in golden light. Images flooded their minds, visions of unity, progress, and harmony across the galaxy. In that moment, they understood the true purpose of their mission. Rex's creators hadn't vanished in vain. Their legacy lived on through him, carried forward by those willing to listen, to learn, and to trust. Together, human and alien had transcended fear and prejudice, forging a partnership that would echo through the stars. And so, with renewed purpose, the Aurora's light sailed onward, ready to embrace whatever mysteries lay ahead. Rex stood tall, beside the crew, no longer a relic of the past but a beacon of the future, a reminder that even in the vastness of space, connection was possible. The Aurora's light glided smoothly through the stars, its systems fully restored after the chaos of recent weeks. The crew had settled into a new rhythm, one shaped by the presence of Rex. Though he was still intimidating to some, his role aboard, the ship had transformed from that of a prisoner to something closer to a partner. Captain Laura Hayes watched from the bridge as the galaxy unfolded before them, her mind reflecting on how far they'd come since discovering the derelict outpost. Rex now had access to several sections of the ship, including a specially designed habitat where he could move freely without chains. He spent much of his time there, but he also accompanied Emily Brooks during her research sessions. Together, they continued unraveling the mysteries of his species' ancient language. Each day brought new breakthroughs, and with each symbol decoded, the picture of Rex's past became clearer. What emerged was both tragic and inspiring. Rex's creators, once a highly advanced civilization, had initially revered him as a guardian deity. They built temples in his honor and relied on his strength and wisdom to protect their world. But as time passed, fear took root. His growing intelligence made them uneasy, and instead of embracing him as an equal, they chose to silence him. Chained and abandoned, Rex had endured centuries of neglect, his once mighty form reduced to a shadow of its former self. Emily shared these findings with the crew during a meeting. "This isn't just about Rex," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "It's about understanding. His story shows us what happens when fear overrides compassion. We have a chance to do better, to show him the respect he deserves." Her words resonated deeply with everyone present. Even those who had been skeptical of Rex began to see him not as a monster, but as a survivor. Slowly, bonds formed between the crew and the creature. Jack Miller, the ship's engineer, started leaving small gifts for Rex, scraps of metal or bits of machinery that caught the alien's interest. Rex responded by using them to create intricate sculptures, his clawed hands surprisingly dexterous. Ryan Carter, still confined to the brig, remained bitter. He refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing, insisting that his actions were meant to protect the crew. But even he couldn't deny the change in atmosphere aboard the ship. The tension that had gripped the Aurora's light for so long had lifted, replaced by a sense of unity and purpose. As the days turned into weeks, Rex proved invaluable in ways no one could have predicted. During one routine scan of nearby space, the ship detected faint energy readings emanating from a nearby asteroid field. The signals were faint and erratic, unlike anything recorded before. Intrigued, Laura ordered the team to investigate. When they arrived, they discovered a massive derelict vessel buried deep within the rocks. Its design bore similarities to the outpost where they'd found Rex, suggesting it belonged to the same civilization. As the crew prepared to board the wreckage, Rex exhibited unusual behavior. His glowing eyes brightened and he let out a low rumble that seemed almost excited. "He knows something," Emily said, watching him closely. "Maybe this ship holds answers about his people." With Rex leading the way, the team ventured inside the derelict vessel. The interior was dark and crumbling, its walls covered in the same symbols they'd seen at the outpost. Rex moved confidently through the corridors, occasionally pausing to examine carvings or touch certain surfaces. It was clear he recognized this place. It felt familiar to him. In the heart of the ship, they found what appeared to be a control room. Ancient consoles lined the walls, their screens flickering weakly despite centuries of disuse. Rex approached one of the panels and pressed his claw against it. To everyone's astonishment, the console sprang to life, bathing the room in soft blue light. "He activated it," Emily exclaimed, her voice trembling with excitement. "He knows how to use this technology." Over the next few hours, Rex demonstrated an incredible understanding of the alien systems. With his guidance, the crew managed to extract data from the ship's archives, information that revealed the true extent of his creator's achievements. They had mastered interstellar travel, developed artificial intelligence, and even harnessed the power of stars. But their downfall came not from external threats, but from internal divisions. Fear and mistrust destroyed their society, leaving behind only ruins and relics. Among the discoveries was a map, a detailed chart of unexplored regions of the galaxy marked with locations of other outposts and vessels. Some entries were labeled with warnings, while others promised untold treasures of knowledge. It was a treasure trove of possibilities, one that could reshape humanity's understanding of the universe. Back aboard the Aurora's Light, the crew celebrated their findings. For the first time in months, laughter echoed through the halls and the weight of uncertainty lifted. Rex stood at the center of it all, no longer an outsider, but a valued member of the team. His contributions had not only saved the mission but opened doors to unimaginable opportunities. Captain Hayes gathered everyone in the mess hall to discuss their next steps. "We've been given a gift," she said, gesturing to the map displayed on a large screen. "These coordinates lead to places we've never dreamed of exploring. But we can't do it alone. Rex has shown us that trust and cooperation are key to survival. If we're going to succeed, we need to keep working together, not just as humans, but as a united crew." The decision was unanimous. They would follow the map, venturing into the unknown with Rex by their side. As preparations began, the bond between human and alien grew stronger. Rex continued to communicate through gestures and sounds, teaching the crew more about his culture while learning about theirs. In return, they treated him with kindness and respect, proving that even the most unlikely friendships could flourish under the right conditions. Weeks later, the Aurora's Light arrived at a bustling interstellar hub known as Nexus Prime. News of their discovery, and of Rex, had spread quickly across the galaxy, drawing attention from scientists, diplomats, and media outlets alike. When the ship docked, crowds gathered to catch a glimpse of the sentient alien dog who had become a symbol of hope and understanding. For many, Rex represented more than just an extraordinary find. He embodied the potential for connection across species and cultures. His journey from neglected outcast to trusted ally inspired countless stories of redemption and unity. People marveled at his intelligence, his resilience, and the way he had overcome centuries of isolation to forge bonds with those who dared to trust him. As the crew disembarked, they were greeted as heroes. Laura addressed the assembled crowd, her words carrying a message of optimism. "Our mission has taught us that the universe is full of wonders and challenges, but if we face them with courage and compassion, there's no limit to what we can achieve." Rex reminded us that even those deemed monstrous or unworthy deserve a second chance. Let his story guide us as we explore the cosmos. Standing beside her, Rex let out a low growl that resonated through the air. The crowd erupted into cheers, their applause echoing like thunder. For the first time in his long existence, Rex wasn't feared or shunned. Instead, he was celebrated, a living testament to the power of empathy and understanding. With supplies restocked and spirits high, the Aurora's light set course for the first destination on the map. Ahead lay uncharted territories, brimming, with mysteries waiting to be uncovered. The crew knew the road wouldn't always be easy, but they faced it with renewed determination. Rex stood proudly on the bridge, his massive form silhouetted against the backdrop of stars. No longer bound by chains or prejudice, he gazed out at the endless expanse of space, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Together, he and the crew of the Aurora's Light embarked on a new era of exploration, one defined not by fear, but by trust, curiosity, and the belief that even the most unexpected connections could change the course of history. And so, as the ship disappeared into the vastness of the galaxy, its legacy already etched into the annals of interstellar lore, Rex's journey served as a reminder. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries aren't found in the stars, but in the hearts of those brave enough to reach for them.